Welcome everyone to another episode of the Amid the Mess podcast. Here we talk about all sorts of health and well-being, self-improvement things amid the mess and the chaos that is life, not trying to strive for perfection. So today I spoke with Morven Hamilton, who is a yoga for cancer teacher and a trainer for clinical health professionals and a trainer for yoga teachers. She teaches yoga for cancer support, and she is motivated to share a whole person approach to teaching yoga safely and compassionately to people affected by cancer. Now, Morven is super knowledgeable about what she does. She's been teaching for 17 years and she loves staying on top of the latest research about yoga. Well, I loved this chat, and I also want to say that you don't have to have cancer to listen to this. It's not just interesting for people currently suffering with cancer. It's so relevant to know about this because at some point in all of our lives, there is a risk of this happening to us, or we'll know a friend or a loved one or a family member who might go through cancer. So knowing a bit more about some beneficial things that can help support us or other people when we go through this can be really useful. So I hope you'll enjoy this episode. I certainly did. As you know by now, maybe you don't know, I'm a yoga teacher myself, so I did nerd out a little bit speaking with Morven and had a really great time. So, without further ado, I really hope you enjoy this one. What is the number one misconception that people have about stuff that they can or cannot do when they have cancer?
Now, this is my biggest campaign, is the biggest misconception that people often give the advice for people to just stay positive, and it's done in a really meaningful way. So advice against sort of being negative, being down, feeling all the uncomfortable feelings. So that's my big campaign about misconceptions about cancer, because it puts so much pressure on people. And then on more practical level, about things that people can and cannot do. I mean, it's often assumed that people with cancer need to rest a lot because they don't feel well. And so many people just feel absolutely fine with their cancer. Lots of people struggle with the treatment, and not everybody does. Lots of people continue to work and enjoy, the same sports that they were doing before. And it's also, another misconception that people need to sort of radically change their lifestyle and their diet. It's highly possible that people were living an anti-cancer sort of lifestyle beforehand. And so there's often an assumption that, have you really changed your diet, or have you stopped doing this, or have you stopped doing this? So I think it's, in a nutshell, that could be said that we can't actually make any assumptions about what people are going through, because it's so individual, everybody's experience of cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting to hear. So you're saying, first of all, you said people shouldn't be expected to be positive all the time. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
like
right.
That kind of, positive mental attitude. And so that's a big part of what you're campaigning. Say a bit more about that.
I love talking about
how
this.
is that damaging? Yes.
I love talking about this.
Great.
You can reframe it as toxic positivity. The pressure to feel positive all the time when your whole life is turning upside down. You're struggling with a diagnosis. You might be losing your career, or your relationships are changing. Of course, you're not going to be able to feel positive all the time, and you should be able to feel the sadness and feel the grief. There's often a lot of grief that comes along with cancer, and if we don't allow ourselves to feel that, then it just becomes toxic, and we feel like we're failing in some way if we allow ourselves to feel sad or feel uncomfortable or feel frightened. The emotional landscape of cancer is so vast and varied, and we need to really be able to feel all of those feelings in order to stay as healthy as we can and to be able to heal.
Yeah, okay, that's so interesting. And I'm sure in in a bit I'm going to be asking, so how does yoga contribute to that kind of feeling of all the emotions? But before we do that, I realize a vast majority of my listeners are not going to have cancer. Thank goodness for them. But so why is it still important for them to learn about the things that you know, to learn about why mindful movement and things like avoiding the toxic positivity, those things are important for people with cancer?
There are lots of different parts to my answer to that question, actually. But put simply, moving, feeling your feelings, um, living a life that allows you to live your truth. I mean, all of those things are going to contribute to you remaining healthy in your life. And another side to that is that 1 in 2 people in the UK is going to be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. So although the vast majority of people
Yes.
will not be going through cancer right now, unfortunately, there's 50% of us will. So I think it's a really important thing to
At
be
some
informed
point.
about.
Yes.
And
Yes.
everyone we know, you
Yeah,
know,
that's true. Yeah.
someone's going to be affected by cancer at some point in their life. So it's not something we can sort
Yeah.
of live in isolation from.
Yeah. Not something you think, oh, well, this episode would then only be relevant for people currently suffering with cancer, but actually, there's a 50% chance that all of us will get, like the
Hmm.
majority will get it, and parents might be going through, friends, family. So understanding what you have to say, I think, is going to be useful for everybody.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all affected by
So
it.
so yeah. So that I wanted to set that context just to make the listeners aware to stay and to listen, because I think what you're going to say is going to be so interesting. So let's get into it. First of all, why did you get into teaching yoga for cancer? Is there like a personal backstory, or what are the reasons?
It's something quite close to my heart because several family members have gone through cancer. And I went
Mm.
into yoga through the route of yoga as medicine, restorative yoga. I recognized very early on in my yoga journey that yoga has some really, really powerful tools to heal. I went through my own sort of personal transformation with healing through yoga. And so I 100% believe in yoga's power to help people to find balance and to improve, physical health, the emotional landscape. And so many people around me were just going through difficulty. I just felt a real kind of vocation to bring that out into the world and help people. And then I ended up doing some therapeutic yoga training with a Canadian teacher called Susie Hatley. And she was offering yoga for cancer as part of her training, and I did it. And I just sort of just fell in love with the idea of, really making a difference.
Yeah, I can imagine, because that group of people, um, I can imagine they're really suffering. Cancer is one of the awful things in the world. So if
Mm.
you can make a difference to their lives, that is a wonderful career path to go in. So I can completely see that motivation.
Yeah.
But so can you just inform us, what are the physical and emotional challenges of having cancer?
That's quite a tricky question to answer. I mean, there are broadly some things that people going through cancer will have in common. However, it really depends on the individual. That
Mm.
cancer is the name of 100 different diseases that all
Oh,
follow a
yeah.
similar pattern within the body. So, and everybody's experience is different. It will depend on the type of cancer you have, the grade of cancer you have, what's happening in your life. Yeah, so many challenges, but I suppose that the real primary ones, which are probably universal, are coping with diagnosis, coping with feelings of being out of control of one's life. Many, many, many people suffer from anxiety. It's very common also to suffer from depression at times when going through cancer. And then on the physical level, fatigue is often, because that's often related to the emotional sort of field as well. What we're experiencing emotionally can, if we're experiencing heaviness emotionally, that can often contribute to, feeling physically fatigued. So that's another really common one. And then just depending on the treatment route, whether there's treatment or not, then, there's a whole sort of litany of symptoms that people may or may
Side
not have.
effects.
So I think we just have to really focus on the individual who's sitting in front of us at the time, because it's so
of
varied.
course. Yes. So you said it's hundreds of different diseases, actually,
Yes.
under
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
umbrella of cancer. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's very broad.
Mm.
Absolutely. But well, let's get into the meaty bit, the stuff that you do. So can
Mm-hmm.
you just start to talk a little bit about how is yoga so beneficial for people with cancer? So yeah, just open up that conversation. What's
Mm-hmm.
top of your mind of how it's important?
Well, probably the thing that people are most interested in is physical health. But, we can look at various different aspects of life where yoga can have an impact. Let's focus on the physical first. And
Mm-hmm.
I think probably at the top of that list, and it's usually where I start with people in the Yoga for Cancer training, is the immune system. It's so beneficial for all aspects of the
Okay.
immune system. And so if we see sort of the main body of the immune system being lymph, our sort of natural body's detox system, yoga is a really excellent way of getting lymph flowing really well around the body. So the body's able to naturally detox itself. So lymph carries cancer cells, but virus cells, dead cells out of the body. So that's sort of probably the very first thing that we need to focus on doing yoga for cancer. So yeah, hugely
Super
beneficial for the
interesting.
immune
Yeah.
system. And then lots of other aspects of the immune system as well, digestive health as well, respiration, nervous system. There's so many aspects that yoga impacts that contribute to a healthy functioning immune system. And then if we move into the emotional sphere, yoga, well, we know that it's a calming. It's quite famous for being calming for people. And so feeling
Yeah.
calm can help.
De-stressing.
Yeah, yes, exactly. De-stressing. So reducing stress levels is one of the key things that you can do. Also to help boost your immune system, and just to help you to feel a little bit safer and more connected. The community aspects of a yoga class can help people just feel sort of seen and bonded, and that can also contribute to sort of reducing feelings of anxiety and fear, being with people who understand them. And also, it's been reported that it's very good for sort of symptom relief as well, people going through the various treatments of cancer, like radiotherapy, chemotherapy, immunotherapy. So it can be beneficial for insomnia, brain fog, and of course, people who've gone through surgery for recovering sort of range of motion as well, if they've got sort of an
Oh,
impairment to
yes.
movement from their surgery. So yoga can really accelerate the healing process from that. Yeah,
Oh, fantastic.
I could go
Yes,
on.
because I can imagine. Yeah, I know. I'm going to ask you to go on in a bit, definitely. But on that physical recovery, so my neighbor had breast cancer and a breast removed
Okay.
in the last maybe 6 months or so.
Mm.
And she was telling me all about how she really had to not carry anything and not do anything with her upper body. And I'm sure in that situation, someone's strength just goes. If
Mm.
you're not using your muscles at all. So actually, doing yoga would then probably start to build up strength a bit more where the muscles have deteriorated through disuse. Is that something that you help people with?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just very gently rebuilding upper body strength. And in a yoga for cancer class, we won't be doing full weight bearing thing. We won't really be doing planks and down dogs and things like that,
Okay.
but we will be rebuilding
Okay.
body, all over body strength in really gentle ways, because we do have to often manage symptoms like side effects like lymphedema. And also,
And lymphedema, can you just define that?
yes, when after cancer surgery, if people have had lymph nodes removed, typically they'll have lymph nodes removed. People with breast cancer will likely have lymph nodes removed from their armpits, and the lymph nodes are the places where the lymph is processed. And when the lymph is removed, if the lymph node is removed, then the lymph is it can't kind of make its usual pathway through the body, so it will collect and cause a sort of fluid swelling in that area. So it's
Oh, okay.
commonly people have it in their arms, in their legs, but you can get it anywhere where you have lymph nodes.
Right. And so you get like swellings. So that means the physical movements need to be adjusted to manage around
Yes,
that.
doing a lot of sort of
Yeah.
aggressive weight bearing. I mean, some weight bearing is good, but like really strong weight bearing can be a trigger for lymphedema. So it's just wise to be careful around weight bearing. I
Ah,
mean, sometimes people are told after
I
surgery
can
that they
see.
shouldn't lift anything heavier than a full kettle. But that's actually since been proven not to be true. We do need to be doing some weight bearing, but we just have to tread with care.
Yeah, mindfully.
Yeah.
Very, very mindfully. Okay,
Mm.
interesting. So, just going back a little bit to the very first benefit,
Mm-hmm.
the immune system,
Yeah.
that is so interesting. And of course, this episode is about yoga for cancer, but it applies to everyone, whether you
Yeah.
are trying to avoid a common cold or
Mm-hmm.
something else. If you're always run down, I can imagine that same mechanism is useful for everyone. So you're getting the whole lymphatic system to flow more effectively. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
Um.
partly why yoga just makes you feel so good.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm a fan, as everyone knows.
Yeah.
So what what about so you speak so knowledgeably about this. Is there scientific research showing some of these benefits?
Yes, there's so much. I don't want to go into. I mean, you can go on Google Scholar and Google, and you'll get
Mm-hmm.
pages and pages and pages. But I thought what I could do is I can send you. I mean, a lot of the studies, the bulk of studies have been done on women with breast cancer, but more recently there are sort of more robust studies on people with lymphomas or colon cancer and lots of different kinds of cancer. And mostly they're studying the effects, the physical benefits or psychosocial benefits, like the effects on anxiety and mood and stress and so on. So yes, there's thankfully, I think with the sort of big surge in people practicing yoga and popularity of yoga, there's been a lot more funding pumped into research. So what I thought I would do is just send you some links, and maybe you can link in the show notes so people can have an explore for
Yeah,
themselves.
definitely. Great. And I shall be reading those studies because I'm currently, now and then I'm stuck breastfeeding a baby for a while and kind of sitting. And so I love doing a little Google Scholar search. So that will
It's a
be
good
some
time
really
to get
fun
all your
reading.
reading
Thank
done,
you.
isn't it?
Yeah, I love a little Google Scholar dive.
Yeah.
Super. Okay, so there are scientific studies showing these benefits. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, moving on a little bit to the yoga philosophy. So, I'm a yoga teacher. You're a yoga teacher. These aspects are um, familiar to us, but the
Yeah.
majority of people listening to this podcast probably don't know much about yoga philosophy. So, could you talk a little bit about how that might help people with cancer and how you use that in your classes?
I use it with a very light touch, and it's more of
Okay.
an attitude that's woven into my teaching. So, yoga philosophy really forms the backdrop to what I teach. And I think this question is really relevant because, I think one of the most healing things that people can experience is kindness and care and a sense of belonging. And these are all things that are very much at the heart of the teachings of yoga. Number one, ahimsa. I know you'll be familiar with ahimsa, or the concept of non-harming. And this comes in at the very beginning of the very first yoga class. When we're practicing yoga, we're not doing anything painful. We're doing this to be kind to ourselves, and we've got to always remember that it's a practice of kindness. So this is the underpinning sort of tenet that comes in. And then a really beautiful aspect to yoga philosophy is the philosophy of interconnectedness, that we are connected energetically to everything else in the planet, and that we are all expressions of consciousness, and we all form a symbiosis. So we do matter, and we're never alone. And so this really comes through in the way I ask people to form connections with their body, to befriend their body and connect to their body, to befriend their breath, to experience the air that they breathe, the ground underneath them. So always coming back to the senses, really, to help people to feel connected. Because again, there's research that says that people who feel connected, people who feel they belong, have higher survival rates. So yeah, that grand community. Yeah. And there's one other thing actually that features very strongly. Shall I talk about that?
Please do. Please go on.
So the concept of the five koshas. So the five layers of being. So in yogic anatomy, this is the five koshas, and this is the model that I work on. Is that every person, we're not just a physical body, but we're made up of various strata that make us a person. So we start with the physical body, and then we have the energy body, the mind body, and then the intuition, or the sort of the higher mind, and then we have the bliss body right at our core. And so this is sort of a journey really that we take through every yoga class, of tuning into all of these different aspects of what it is to be human, and healing on all of those different planes. I mean, and that sounds complicated when I talk about it, but it's really not. It's just directing our awareness to how do we feel? How's our energy today? Now, how is my breath? What's my train of thought right now?
Yeah, I love that. I was hoping you'd mention the koshas, actually. That's something that immediately comes to my mind. It's something I like to use in my teaching as well, and something that gives me solace when I'm practicing, when I'm maybe in a difficult phase in life, when maybe emotionally I'm struggling or physically. I like to focus myself on that inner layer, the bliss body, like imagining this like beautiful golden light on the inside. And I describe that to my students as well. And the fact that, like, it was esoteric, but you are not your body, you are not your emotions. Like, you can disassociate a little bit. And especially, I imagine, if you are ill, if you have very little energy and something's perhaps a bit wrong with your body, really focusing on that inner light could be really uplifting, I imagine. Kind of really like, I have these different layers. I have the physical body, I have the emotions, I have the wisdom, and then I have my inner light. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that. And I think it's relevant for everyone, but perhaps especially for people who are ill and who have a challenge in their physical body.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. And I think focusing in on a part of us that is unchanging as well, like the awareness and the like the bliss body that you talk about.
Yeah.
Connecting into something that it's not necessarily within our control, but it's an aspect of us that is always there for us when we look inward, where everything else is constantly in flux. And on a cancer journey, that will be more kind of apparent and affecting than it is for most people in their day-to-day lives. So
yeah, absolutely. So on a cancer journey, on other serious illnesses as well, perhaps, I mean, coming to mind is something like chronic fatigue. If someone really struggles to have the physical energy, doing something like visualizing your inner bliss body and all the other layers, that could be really useful in that kind of case.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, can you describe to the listeners, how does a yoga for cancer class just look a little bit different from a standard, perhaps yoga vinyasa class that you'd get at the local gym?
You probably wouldn't recognize it as the same thing. But honestly, it will look very similar to another gentle yoga class, to be honest. I mean, it's based on hatha
Mm.
yoga. The difference is the type of language that we use, and the actually the body of knowledge that the teacher has to be able to adapt for the people who are in the room. So on the surface, it actually might look the same as a gentle yoga class, where you would be doing some very sort of gentle somatic movement. You might spend a longer time in relaxation than you would at another yoga class. You would limit standing poses to maybe one or two, and you definitely wouldn't be doing vinyasas, and you definitely wouldn't be doing all of those, very, very challenging, complex poses. But yeah, it's more the intangible things that make it a yoga for cancer class, really, than the things
Mm.
that you can see.
Yeah, yeah, the kind of perhaps the words that you speak, the kind of the way you make people think and be aware of the different sensations in their body,
Yes, the words that
I
you
would imagine.
speak, and just knowing that, for example, if someone has had if they're recovering from breast surgery, you would know the types of movements that would be especially beneficial for that person, and also just knowing a lot about the types of movements that can encourage lymph to move around the body. Or knowing that that person who's had esophageal cancer, it probably isn't going to be comfortable lying down, will have to be sort of slightly propped up in case there's reflux. So it's a lot of the background stuff that's going to help you to make people safe and comfortable. And
Yeah,
yeah, and there will be
yeah, interesting.
more sort of nervous system reset, nervous system calming things as well than you would have in your usual yoga class.
Yeah, okay, perfect. And it might be a bit difficult for you to describe right here, but what, in kind of grand big terms, what types of movements are good for letting the lymph flow through the body? You said you're going to specifically focus on movements to help the lymph nodes or the lymphatic system flow
Mhm.
well. Could you describe a few of those here?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really great question. So one thing we can do is shake or pat, just patting or stroking down the skin
Okay.
all over the body. And that's a really easy thing anybody can do in the morning to get the lymph flowing, or having a kind of bounce and a jiggle. That's what a really good thing for lymph. And then
Okay.
and that shaking's becoming quite popular now as a practice to de-stress as well. And then to move lymph in particular areas, this sort of rotational movement's really helpful. So, for example, if I want to get lymph flowing around my armpit, if I've had lymph nodes removed, I would be doing a lot of this kind of movement. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just a complete yoga practice where we're sort of expanding and contracting all the muscles in the body, because these muscles are pumps that pump the lymph around the body. Another way that lymph moves is through our relationship to gravity. So you'd make sure that you had people in lots of different stations. So you might have them with their legs up the wall to encourage lymph to move from the lower body to drain towards the upper body. You could have people lying on their
Mm.
front, lying on their back. So it's quite simple, really. It pumps through with the
No,
muscles, and then it moves with gravity.
yeah, perfect. And like and flowing rotational movements for particular areas and joints, I can
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah,
That's great because I love doing those movements.
yeah.
So
They feel really good
personally
as
I'm
well,
thinking,
right?
yes, yes, I'm always doing like neck rolls and shoulder
Hmm.
rolls and all of that stuff. So I'm
Mm.
thinking personally, tick for my immune system. So fantastic.
And even if
Now,
you're really,
what about? Oh,
I was just going to say,
carry
even if
on,
you're
carry
really
on, carry on.
tired, and if you're really sick, then just this. is going to help to move the lymph, just stroking down the neck.
Okay, so for the people who are not looking at this, just stroking down your neck. Okay.
Stroking down just very lightly with the
Yeah.
fingertips from the jaw down towards the collarbones. Just something as simple as that. It's amazing how much impact just a very small thing can have.
Yeah. Okay. Super. No, really interesting. Have you got any success stories to share with us?
I have to tell you about Kathy, and I know she wouldn't mind me sharing her story. So I met Kathy in 2020, it would have been, and I still see her weekly. But when I met her in 2020, she had been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and she'd been given 3 months to live.
Ooh.
Yeah, so she'd been told to enjoy the time she had left and to say her goodbyes. She was told that they weren't going to treat her, and then she was lucky in that a family member was able to pay for her to see a Harley Street doctor who paid for chemotherapy for her. And the doctor told her that she could have treatment. So she started chemotherapy, and it's just been miraculous. I'm not a religious person, but watching Kathy has been a miracle to me. Like, she's just an incredible woman. She's been doing yoga 1-to-1 with me every week. She's been going walking in the Mendits. We're in Somerset here, near the Mendit Hills. So she's been walking in the Mendits every day. She wears her oxygen tank to go walking.
Wow.
She's had surgery on her lungs.
She needs oxygen.
To walk up hills. Yeah. And she recently went for a scan earlier this year and was given the all clear, no cancer in her body.
What?
And
that's insane.
Yeah,
Wow.
It's insane.
Wow.
I just can't. I
Oh,
don't think anyone can quite believe it. It's one of those things you read about and you think, oh yeah, no, that never happens to somebody you know. But yeah,
and it's nice that those success stories exist.
Yes, I do actually want to be really clear, though, that this is not a claim that yoga can cure cancer. That absolutely isn't. I mean, Kathy's obviously been very lucky. Yes. She's had a whole health problem. She had a health program, and she has had treatment, and she's just been one of those incredible people who just happened to make the choices that led to her recovery.
And it was a combination. So she had chemotherapy or radiotherapy or whatever. She had the real medical heavy duty cancer treatment. Yeah. And then on the side, she did the exercise and the yoga and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
all of it together.
Yeah, it was to support her treatment.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So, I mean, that is a bit of a segue. So you say you don't want to make a claim about yoga curing cancer. Are there any other myths or misconceptions that you would like to debunk about yoga and cancer?
Yeah, I suppose that a really popular myth about yoga for cancer is that it's going to make you feel good. I think that's actually a myth that it's not. I mean, yoga isn't actually supposed to make you feel good. Yoga is just supposed to make you be aware. So yeah, there's sort of a popular myth that it's going to be a kind of how do you describe something that's a medicine that takes everything away? It takes away all the
a panacea.
Yes, no, a panacea.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I think I mean, yoga requires an exchange. It requires you to show up. That's basically what it requires. It requires you to show up and just be there with yourself. And that's not actually always an easy thing to do. So I mean, sometimes yoga can stir things up. And it can stir up things that might feel uncomfortable, things that you need to look at. And also the practice of yoga, when you're challenging yourself, when you're pushing your limits, also that can feel a little bit uncomfortable. We're supposed to meet edges in our yoga practice as well. And it's that overall effect that usually results in people generally feeling better about themselves, or feeling they've achieved something, or they've improved their energy. But it's not a question of just sort of
Yes.
turning up and everything, all the worries are going to go away.
Yeah, it's like a magical elixir that you just drink and it's all fine.
Yeah.
Yes, there's some work involved. So, I mean, I agree with you completely. This is something that I'm also working on, this misconception in my career as a yoga teacher, because I often I mean, the style I teach is quite physical, so it does make you go into uncomfortable situations. And I like to tell people, actually, yeah, yoga doesn't always feel good. And even if it doesn't feel good, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but this pose is so uncomfortable. That's fine. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. And that's in that way, meeting that discomfort, as long as you're not in actual danger, which in most cases you're not, you're just in physical discomfort. I mean, in my experience and kind of reading of the yoga philosophy, that experience of discomfort in the physical body and getting used to breathing through that and keeping your nervous system in a calm state despite the discomfort helps you with challenges in other parts of your life, helps you be comfortable in discomfort. And that is part of the point of doing yoga sometimes. So in a way that could help a little bit with, if you're dealing with something really physically challenging like cancer or another illness, you've been trained to deal with a bit of discomfort, perhaps.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That was a little bit hard, but it was okay. You built, that's how you build your resilience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So some more misconceptions. So a very common one, which I'm sure, yoga teacher to yoga teacher, we both are grown at it, is that when people think yoga is all about just becoming flexible. So what have you got to say against that?
Well, I'm sort of torn, because I think, if people think it's about stretching, and then they come along and they get something more than that. I mean, I often think that, talking about stretching is very reductive, isn't it? I think it's sort of, even talking about stretching sort of misses all those other like really yummy sensations and like physical experiences that you have from doing yoga. But if it brings people in the door, then it's fine.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I mean, I do often kind of, in marketing sense, I do say like about strength and flexibility, and but it brings people in, and once people experience it, they stay for other reasons. So far wider mental, physical, well-being reasons. Absolutely.
It's so much more than that.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's so much more to yoga than the vast majority of people realize. And pictures of very super flexible people on Instagram doing an amazing back bend or the splits or a handstand just don't do it justice. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it's true. And I think it's
You're just laughing.
it's I think that's how it first started in the West, though, right? People saw pictures of people doing yoga, and they thought that it was exercise, and that's how yoga got here in the first place, isn't it? So I mean, in a way, it's not surprising that kind of mindset has endured. But yeah, you just have to get beneath the surface a little bit and let go of like making a pretty shape, and then you're in the real yoga.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's not about the pretty shapes. Well, I have one different question. You obviously encounter a lot of people with cancer, and you've taught yoga for years and years and years to people with cancer, and seen people go through perhaps really, really difficult times. So I'd like to see, for the listeners of the show who don't have cancer, are there any poignant life lessons that they could take away from all the people that you've been in contact with?
I think that going through cancer puts you in extremis. I think it puts you right out at the outposts of human experience, which can be a terrifying and also beautiful and creative place to be, and often a very unstable place to be. And in being in that very privileged space with people going through that, what I've noticed has been sort of most sort of beneficial, for want of a better word, of the part of their yoga practice is just being able to really tune into the beauty, what's beautiful, what feels good about this moment, and like not letting any of the small things go past. Like notice and appreciate the small things in every day, even if it's just this breath that you're taking right now.
Yes. Every breath, every little beautiful leaf that they might see, or flower, or
Exactly.
hug from a loved one, things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And I
Cherish it.
think, people with cancer, they're forced to think in this way because their life is threatened. But it is a very good thing for all of us to realize that we can all do that as well.
And it's
To
living.
become
It's
more mindful
living
of every
intensely.
little beautiful thing. Yes. Yeah. Ooh, juicy. Wonderful. Gives me chills. So yeah, that's it's been such an interesting conversation. Can you tell the listeners what kind of services you offer to the layperson, people with cancer, and maybe other yoga teachers?
Yes, I mostly teach online actually, and I teach a few in-person classes, but I welcome people with cancer into my gentle yoga classes, and everyone else as well. So if you'd like to do a gentle yoga practice that can be adapted for people with cancer, I do Monday evenings, 6 o'clock, I do a gentle yoga. I do one-to-one, where I specialize in supporting people going through cancer and sort of beyond recovery. And I also, for yoga teachers, I do training. So I do workshops on, foundations of yoga for cancer, and also a full sort of teacher training program where you can come along and you can get certification on a 40-hour program. So that's sort of the big course where you can become a yoga for cancer teacher. So the next one's happening in October
Oh,
13th.
yeah. Oh, very interesting. Super. Well, I shall be sending this link to some of my yoga teacher friends, to sending this
Okay.
episode to them, and
Yeah,
they can
thank
have a
you.
listen. And also, oh yeah, you're welcome. Also for the general listener who is not a yoga teacher, your classes are also online, you said. Is that
Most of them
right?
are online. Yeah, I do. I do
Most of them
various
are online, so
courses.
anyone and any location can find you. And what is your website?
Oh yeah, it's yogabynature.org. So Yoga by Nature, that's my business name. So
Okay,
you can
Yoga
find
by
me there.
Nature.
Yeah.
Perfect. I shall put the link in the show notes from your website and your Instagram account, and any other links, and some of those juicy studies, those Google
Yes.
Scholar scientific studies, the proof of why yoga is good for the immune system.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for your time. No, I'm not leaving yet. I have one more question that I'd
Okay.
like to finish with. I ask all my guests just to keep it real, because this podcast is all about doing things amid the mess of life, not aiming for perfection. So, if you're willing to share, what is one of your imperfections?
I always forget that I am one person. I'm a middle-aged mum going through
Oh, yeah.
menopause, and I'm trying to run a business. I'm always spreading myself way too thinly and trying to do too many things. So I often end up doing lots of things not as well as I could. So I have to really, really make sure I put boundaries to focus on just doing one thing at a time. Yeah. You know that you have to wear so many different
I hear
hats as a
you.
mom.
Oh yes, absolutely. I hear you. That's yeah, I completely commiserate because I'm right there with you. I have too many too many projects on the go, and actually
Yeah.
I should just focus on one or two of these projects.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
But
Well,
they're
thank
all
you
so
for sharing.
exciting.
I
Thank you.
know. As if only we sometimes I think if only we could have 10 days in the week rather than 7 days in the week. That would just, that would help.
Yes. Or more hands and maybe an extra head.
Yes. Yeah, well, now we have an extra head because the extra head's called ChatGPT. So,
That's true.
but we
You've
need
got
more days
a free
still.
PA.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I've really loved this conversation. Thank you so much, and
Thanks
I
for
hope you
having me.
have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
That was Morven Hamilton, all about yoga for cancer support. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. As I told you at the beginning, I was nerding out a little bit with her because I love talking about yoga. But as you know, this podcast isn't all about yoga, but there's a little sprinkling now and then with an episode here and there. So I enjoyed it. Now, before you go, if there is a person in your life who has cancer, feel free to send them this episode. Maybe this might be really useful for them to hear. Please do share it. And otherwise, have a lovely rest of your day. And another thing before you go, I would love it if you could rate and review my show. That is so helpful. I'm a new podcast and the algorithms love it if people get ratings and reviews, and that will help me to be more visible to more people. So thank you. That is a free way that you can support me. Okay, well, that is it for today. I'm going to go home and do my shoulder rolls and my neck rolls to get my lymphatic system flowing so I can support my immune system. And I hope you'll do that too. And then I hope you'll tune in again next week when I bring you another episode. So for now, I'd like to say bye.